Hello, everybody, and welcome to How to Start a Business in Garner. I am Joe Stallings, and the town's Economic Development Director. We are hosting this online social media webinar as a part of our Small Business Week celebration that's been happening all week. So I hope you all have been enjoying that and have been participating in the scavenger hunt. And maybe one or two of you have actually won one of the great gift baskets that we've put together. This is all a part, like I said, of Small Business Week, and this is a partnership between the Town of Garner Economic Development Department and the Garner Chamber of Commerce. So if there's any small business owners out there that is watching this today, thank you very much for your contribution to this community and doing business here in Garner. We really appreciate it. Today's slideshow is going to be on actually how to get in business here in town, and we're going to be talking about a few of the pitfalls that some small businesses get into, and maybe how to avoid some of those. In the Economic Development Department, we're fortunate enough to be able to work with a variety of businesses, both large and small. And working with small businesses, we try to help them connect with resources, but also counsel them in finding the best ways to get into business and to stay in business. So we'll go ahead and start with today's show, our slideshow, with the first slide here. And it's really about, where to begin. What, as an entrepreneur, what do you want to achieve and why do you want to be an entrepreneur? So many people have a different understanding of what an entrepreneur is or what they're trying to accomplish. And it's really important to get down to the basic understanding of why someone wants to start their own business. And it could be for any number of reasons. Maybe they're unemployed and they're looking to start a new career. Maybe they don't want to punch a time clock anymore and they want freedom and flexibility in their schedule. Maybe they see starting a business as an opportunity to make a lot of money and improve their financial position. But whatever it is, there has to be a reason why a person wants to start a small business, and understanding what the real goal is, it will greatly help them down the road as they begin their company. The other things that we try to get entrepreneurs to kind of understand or figure out before they even start a business is, what are they trying to solve? What is their value proposition, and what will they be doing in the market? Do they see an opening or a need unmet? And how are they going to meet that need? And then finally, we try to prepare small business owners or those looking to get into business for actually being in business. One of the biggest hurdles that I see small business owners or potential small business owners have to get over is this idea of uncertainty. Not knowing where your next paycheck is going to come from, or being maybe worried about making payroll or controlling inventory costs, or being competitive in the marketplace. Whenever you're relying on yourself to generate a paycheck, there's a lot of stress that comes with that. And there's a lot of uncertainty in that. And so if you're someone who is real nervous and really likes the idea of having a scheduled paycheck coming in at a certain period of time, being an entrepreneur may be difficult for you, because if being in business teaches you anything, sometimes it's not knowing exactly when the next customer is going to roll through. So being able to work through that uncertainty and being comfortable with that, like I said, is one of the main hurdles that we try to counsel entrepreneurs in and help them come to peace with it. Other things we're going to cover today is setting up your business here in Garner. And some of these things are just general business principles, how to set up a business. And then we're going to talk about, in navigating the entitlement process. How do you get in business in Garner? What does that look like? What are things that you need to be thinking about? Some things are going to be pretty common, and I think everyone can kind of point them out and understand them. Other things may be a little bit trickier, especially depending on what type of business you may have. And then we'll wrap up with some small business resources that anyone looking to start a company can take advantage of. Most often they are free, and they're out there just waiting for someone to come along and ask to use them. So we're going to jump into where to begin, and then we'll work our way down into actual getting in business in the town of Garner, and then wrapping up with some small business resources. So, like I said before, understanding what your goals are as an entrepreneur are going to be critical to your success. What do you want to achieve? Oftentimes you'll hear people talk about the money they'll make in starting their own business, but goals need to be set by the entrepreneur that aren't just monetary. They need to be something intrinsic, because the first couple of years in a business, chances aren't normally the most profitable. So if the primary reason you want to be in business is to make a lot of money, and the first couple of years your business isn't making a lot of money, you may find yourself running out of steam and not wanting to continue to pursue it. But those are things that we can work with entrepreneurs through, and above all, the goals and the reason you want to be in business for yourself, it really needs to be realistic. Everybody wants to be a millionaire. Everybody wants freedom and flexibility, but being a small business owner, you're going to find that even though you may have freedom and flexibility to create your own schedule, really your schedule is driven by the business itself. So anytime that it's open, chances are you're going to be there. And even whenever it's not open, you're going to be working on making your business better. So freedom is one of those things, or the lack of a set schedule is one of those things that we all might think about as being a business owner, but it may not be as accurate as you think. It's really, starting a business is much like raising a child. It's 24/7, 7 days a week. There's really not a lot of holidays and vacations where you're not thinking about your company or how to make it better. The other thing is, what problem will the new business solve? This kind of gets back to understanding why someone would come to your business. What is your value-added proposition that's going to make you competitive in the marketplace? If you're not solving a problem, if you're not providing a good or service that isn't already provided, then think about what makes your good or service better than what anybody else can get already. And that really will help kind of drive your business decisions as to whether or not the business might be successful. So if you're not adding value, if you're not going to be better than your competition, then you really have to think about, okay, what am I going to do to make people come to me versus what they can already get in the marketplace? Another thing is, understanding the business principles and market behind the company you're trying to start. If you are someone who is not, familiar with a particular type of business, or maybe the cliche is someone who loves to cook that opens a restaurant. Well, those are all noble, good things, and entrepreneurs normally are very passionate about what they want to do and the type of business they want to operate in, but maybe they don't understand some of the lingo of the business, or maybe they don't have a good grasp on things like cash flow and inventory controls, and making sure that they can meet payroll and handle some of the ups and downs of the market. Most businesses have cycles, and they're often seasonal. So if you're wanting to start a landscaping company, you've got to be able to understand that your cash flow may be really great during the spring and fall, but your downtimes are going to be in the summer and the winter. And what are you going to do to either generate additional cash flow, or will you make enough money in the spring and fall to essentially float yourself through those off seasons? So understand the trends in the market, understand the basic business principles that kind of supersede all types of businesses. And ultimately, I think everyone is kind of pushed to this idea of ROI, or return on investment. How much money and time and resources am I going to put into this company, and what am I going to get out of it? And so, a lot of times we focus specifically on the dollar and cents of ROI, but getting back to those goals and the reason why you want to be an entrepreneur, there may be some intrinsic qualities of owning your own business that makes up for the lack of, say, cash and return on investment. Maybe the new company allows you to spend more time with your family, and that is something that is a return that maybe you can't categorize on a spreadsheet, but it means more to you. And so understanding some of the basic business principles, understanding the market, understanding the trends in the market is really going to help that wannabe business owner understand what they're getting themselves into, and it may inform them on when to get into the market. So once again, if you're wanting to start up a landscaping company, for example, maybe you want to start up your company, say right before spring gets here, or maybe in the winter, and you start developing contacts and business accounts, and by the spring you're ready to go. So understanding those things are going to be hugely important for a business owner to think about. The other things is getting back to setting up your goals, really. And this is, gets back to some of the things we've already talked about, whether it's freedom or flexible schedules. We have up here additional income and self-sufficiency. These are all important things. And maybe, you start your own business just for a little side money. You're going to drive Uber, or you're going to, cut grass on the side, or whatever it may be. Maybe you have a place in your home where you can, do some hair, or perhaps maybe you have an Etsy account and you're in the crafts. Still understanding what your goals are and setting out a projection of where you are today and where you want to be in realistic terms is going to help you kind of guide your business through its progression and get you where you want to be. So this is a great little quote here. I think I saw one quote like this that was contributed to Benjamin Franklin, and then this, of course, is Winston Churchill. And essentially, he who plans to fail is planning, or he who fails to plan is planning to fail. This gets back to one of the number one things that we ask or request all would-be business owners to provide and to think about is your business plan. You should not go into business without a business plan. This essentially is the blueprint of your business, your strategy, your business cycle. You would never build a house without a blueprint. And certainly, at least in my opinion, you would never start a business without a business plan. So what you see here on the slide is just a few different kind of headings that most business plans have in there. You can find business plans online. You can go to the Small Business Center and they'll help you out. Essentially what you're trying to do is answer every question you can think of about your company before you start your company. And I know one of the things that we've helped entrepreneurs think about is listing out every expense in your business plan that you can think of, and then matching those expenses to revenues to see where your break-even point is. And things like toilet paper and light bulbs, and if you're in the restaurant business, you need an allotment for cups and napkins and everything else. But listing out everything from insurance and rent, the big items, the initial startup costs, on down to things like toiletries and what have you, trying to get an idea of what is the actual cost to get started in this business. What is the life cycle of it? How long will those products last? That sort of thing. And how do your expenses match up with your revenues? And that gets down to the last point, the financial plan and projections. But as you can see, the financial plan and projections is one of the last things in the business plan. So, really what I would encourage any business owner or someone looking to get into business to do is go through these kind of step by step and write that executive summary and the company description. I know if you go to a bank and you're looking for financing, they are not more than likely going to finance you if you do not have a solid business plan. They're also not going to finance you if you don't have skin in the game or you're not putting in equity. And it doesn't necessarily have to be cash equity. It can be equity in the form of equipment. It can be equity in the form of a second loan on your home. It can be equity in the form of a lot of things, but it has to be, the entrepreneur has to have skin in the game traditionally to get financing. And financing can come in a lot of different forms too. I mean, it doesn't always have to be a bank. Financing can be as simple as a credit card. A lot of small businesses don't have, start small, and so don't have a huge amount of upfront cost and can be financed with a credit card. And of course, you're going to want to pay that credit card off as soon as possible because the interest rates are so high. But it doesn't necessarily have to be a bank loan. It could also be either a loan or cash injection, maybe with or without an equity stake from family and friends. Just something to get you started in the business. But you want to outline your products and services. What are you going to be offering? Why is it better? The other thing, and we're going to get into this, is market analysis. This is a huge component of the business plan. Understanding who you're going to serve. And we're going to show you, I think 4 kind of studies or 4 points that every entrepreneur needs to think about as they develop their market analysis. And once again, you can find a lot of information online and through the different resources we'll talk about later about analyzing the market. But this is going to be a huge point to any business plan. And then, of course, your strategy and implementation. How, when are you going to start? How are you going to start? That sort of thing. And then how are you going to organize the business? And we'll also talk about that as well. So as we mentioned, market analysis is a huge component of any business plan. Understanding who your customer is, what makes them tick, when do they buy, how do they buy, what is, who are you going after, who are you going to serve? Here you see several, there's 5 folks there, and they're all different. They're all going to have different buying habits, different, opinions of what matters to them, what they're looking for in a product. And depending on what your product or service is, you need to identify which target group you're going after and figure out how to best market to them specifically. Don't leave up a chance that, I'm going to open up this shop and, people are going to walk in and they're going to buy things. Maybe not. What you need to do is start out from the very beginning with the understanding that you're going to have to market your business in some form or fashion. The great thing about that is social media has opened up a lot of free resources to allow small business owners to market their business. However, it's still going to take time, and sometimes it's still going to take money to generate those marketing efforts. So just keep this in mind as you go through your business plan and setting up your business. Things you're going to want to consider is what is the market. Are you going to be able to serve a 1-5 mile radius? With the invention of the internet now, the world is connected closer than ever. If you're going to start up a retail business today, I would say one of the first things you want to do is get online and begin selling your product before you ever open up a bricks and mortar store, if you can. Now, some retailers can't, but understanding what is the market. Is it right in your backyard? Is it worldwide? If your market, if you're selling a particular product that's only of interest to, I don't know, cross stitchers. How many cross stitchers are there in the United States or the world? And how are you going to reach them? And then understanding how's the market changing. And I think this is a huge, especially today with the headlines and the constant changes in the retail environment and many small businesses being retail oriented or even construction oriented. How's the market changing? We all remember in the recession the loss of trades and construction type workers, and now you look at it today, they're going gangbusters. So being able to understand how the market's changing, if you're going into a retail type business, we're seeing Toys R Us going out of business. Big names like Sears, J.C. Penney's, Macy's, all are having trouble in the retail marketplaces as e-commerce continues to take hold in the economy. So how are you going to battle that as a small business owner? Then we talked a little bit earlier about your value statement. What value are you going to bring? Are your products and services going to be cheaper? Are they more in depth? Because you're a smaller business, are you able to spend more one-on-one time with your customers to give them exactly what they need and not treat them as just another just some any other person? That matters. So understanding what value you're going to bring to the marketplace, and then understanding demographic trends in your target market. Here's just a great example. The United States is continuing. The minority populations of the United States continue to grow as non-minority populations kind of contract. So what is your target market, and are you focusing on the right target markets? Millennials kind of get a bad rap in a lot of senses, but they're also changing the way people do business. So are you going to target millennials, and how are you going to do that? Those are all important factors. So looking at your demographics, things like age, median household income, certainly ethnicity breakdowns, whether, any other number of demographic data that you can kind of look at. And a lot of those demographic numbers can come off the Bureau of Labor Statistics websites. And you can look at a whole host of different other free resources to kind of get that demographic information. But really understand who your target market is and how that demographic is changing and what the projection of that demographic will be. And then finally, who are your competitors, right? This gets back to understanding your value statement and what you're going to provide that your competition isn't. Because without having a good understanding of who your competition is and what they're providing, it's going to be hard to understand what value you're going to offer the market. So one of the things that we try to tell folks is if you're going into a business and there's a similar business that's already existing, talk with that business. Find out what is going well for them, what is going poorly for them. If they will tell you things, find out how they plan to roll with the punches and how their marketing efforts are changing and where they're going to make their big next investment in. Make sure you talk with similar businesses and get their feedback. This would be an invaluable resource. Things like this can lead to mentoring if someone is willing to do that, and it'll allow you to do some really cheap, get some really cheap information on how your particular business may fare in the future. And it can't be understated to really get out there and do your research. That's what all this is market information is about, is just doing research and making sure that you're setting your company up for success, that you know what you're getting yourself into, and that you understand the ins and outs of the particular market or industry that you're trying to serve. And then here's a little legal thing is deciding how you're going to set up your business, right? And there's really about 5 different types. There's the sole proprietorship, the partnership, the limited liability corporation, better known as the LLC, the S Corp, and then the standard corporation. So, sole proprietor is your most common, really, that and the LLC. Essentially, sole proprietor is you doing business as yourself. You go out and, let's just landscaping, you go out and you cut grass, the person pays you for it. You then go back and you count that money on your taxes and get some write-offs of any business expenses, things like that. And you're just acting as yourself doing business. There's some pros and cons to each one of these. As a sole proprietor, you're kind of opening yourself up to liability. So in the instance, let's say you cut grass and whatever happens, you throw a rock through somebody's window or you hurt somebody and they decide to sue you. Well, as a sole proprietor, you can be held responsible for the mistakes or what have you as the business owner, and they can come after not only the business property but also your own property. So you really open yourself up to a lot of liability, unlike the limited liability corporation, which is a separate legal entity that you set up to North Carolina. And it's very easy to set up, but essentially you act as the company, but the company is an entity unto itself. So the same issue happens with your landscaping business. You hit a rock, it smashes somebody's window, or someone gets hurt, you get sued. The person that sues you can only come after what is held by the limited liability corporation. Now there's some caveats to that, and this idea of piercing the corporate veil, which essentially means that your personal money and the money of the company, the assets of the company have become fungible, and there's really not a clear delineation between the two, which as the Economic Development Director, I would tell you to please keep all business and personal expenses separate, because the piercing of the corporate veil, as they so call it, can really open you back up to a lot of liability, even if you have an LLC. So something to think about is certainly to keep the business and personal related expenses and assets separate, extremely separate. The other things like S corporation, this is essentially a corporation that is set up but allows for the income of the company to be divided up between its ownership, pass through to them, and then they essentially pay income on that, or pay taxes on that income like they would if they were earning the money themselves. And then your corporation is what we think about normally with corporations, with the board of directors and the stock and the dividends and this, that, and the other. And those corporations are taxed as a corporation. And then again, if they do a dividend or a payout, that money flows to the particular stockholder, and then the stockholder is essentially taxed on the income that he or she receives. So you kind of get a double taxation issue. But each one of these has a pro and con with it. give some thought about how you set up your business and what type of legal entity you will be. And the statement at the bottom here really kind of hammers the reason why this is important home is because this can have a huge effect on your tax treatment and the amount of liability you as a business owner take on. So I am not an attorney or a CPA. So please, if you're getting into business, find an attorney or a CPA, probably both, and have that conversation with them about what makes the most sense for you. These are huge, can have huge impacts, and believe me, you want to get this right from the very beginning and not wait to have to do this later on down the road and it just becomes more complicated and cumbersome. So do it right the first time, get some advice, find out what's going to work best for you, because ultimately that's really what matters, what's going to work best for you and makes the most sense for your company, and then get it done, and you'll have this, at least this piece of the business knocked out. Once again, the limited liability corporation is probably one of the more widely used, that in your sole proprietorship. So give a thought to that as you continue to go through your business plans. This is just another thing really for those businesses that will need a bricks and mortar location. This is important. The old adage, the real estate cliche, it's all about location, location, location. If you need a bricks and mortar store, this is very important. If you are going to run your business out of your home, give it some thought. More than likely, if you can do that, you probably should do that, at least for a time. But if you can't, remember that your location matters. It says a lot about your company and can have a huge impact on how much business you get. So, whenever we talk about location, of course, we talk about where will your business be placed. Oftentimes, we think about bricks and mortar because, of course, we would. But it's also about things like what's your online presence. All right, so where will your business be placed in the on the internet? All right, or will you have social media? Will you have an Etsy store is real popular? Are you going to do business over eBay or Amazon, or will you have your own website? And if you do those things, it's great. It's going to open up your market to be able to sell to folks outside of your general area. But you also have to think about how will you fulfill those orders. So keep that in mind. And then the other thing is what's your budget for space, right? So if you're going to need a bricks and mortar store, what's your budget? How much money do you have to pay the monthly lease? Oftentimes companies will come in, they'll say, I need 2,500 square feet or whatever it may be. And you sit down with them and you learn more about their company and you say, all right, well, do you really need 2,500 square feet? Or could you use, maybe 800 to 1,000 square feet for the next couple of years and then grow into 2,500 square feet? Keep in mind that lease rates normally go up. There's a lot of ways to repurpose space. So figuring out what your basic need is going to make a huge difference, because those leases aren't getting cheaper right now. It doesn't look like they're going to for the time being. And if you need 1,000 square feet and you'll say you're in a retail space, here in Garner, you're probably going to pay somewhere, let's say around, $15 a square foot. And then you'll have a TICAM normally associated with that. And TICAM is a taxes, insurance, and common area maintenance charge. And that can be, $1, $2 a square foot. So you can see, depending on what your space needs are and what type of space you need, that it can greatly impact your budget. And this may be one of the largest expenses up front for someone to come in, find a space, then do the tenant improvements, and then pay the lease rates. It can be really, really costly. And so you can negotiate your lease rent. You can do a whole number of other things to try to reduce it, but really it gets down to what is your budget and how much space do you really need? Is visibility important to your business? If you're in retail, visibility is going to be huge. If you're a landscaping company, visibility probably isn't going to be that important. If you're a manufacturer of a good that you ship all over the world or wherever, visibility may not be that important, but if you're an attorney or a CPA and you're starting out, then visibility may be huge, so that folks know where you're at, and essentially your space becomes a part of your marketing strategy. This is another question. It really gets back to some of the kind of restaurants and grocery and things like this, but are you an AM or PM business? And why does that matter? So if you're an AM business, meaning your customer is more likely to visit you in the morning than they are in the afternoon, or you're a PM business, meaning that your customer is more likely to visit you in the afternoon than in the mornings, then you want to look at things like traffic counts and see which side of the road is a heavier traffic in the morning versus heavier traffic in the afternoon, and then see if you can't place your business where it makes sense on that side of the road. This is really important for things like quick service restaurants and grocery stores. Give you an idea, most grocery stores don't do a lot of their business in the mornings, and so they like to be on the PM side, on the home, coming home from work side of the road, giving the thought that as you leave your place of business, you will come home. You'll need to stop by the grocery store to pick up that gallon of milk or loaf of bread or whatever it is, and you will stop in, grab it, and go home. That's why you'll see most grocery stores on the PM side. On the flip side of that, let's say you're a Dunkin' Donuts or you're a Krispy Kreme, or you're a quick service restaurant that has a breakfast menu, like a Biscuitville, like we have here in Garner. You're going to want to be on the AM side of the road, because most of your customers are going to come to you in the morning. So you're going to look at the traffic counts, you're going to see which one's AM, PM, and then you're going to decide which side you need to be on and try to find a location on that particular side of the road. The other thing is the property zoned correctly, and this is incredibly important. You do not want to find yourself with a lease in a space that is not zoned correctly, and we're going to talk more about that here pretty soon. And then the other piece is, will the space allow you to grow? And so this gets back to what your budget for space is. But really the idea is, if you can, find a space that will not require you to take down the entire space immediately, but will allow you to take down space as you need it. And you really see this in the office space and the industrial flex space, which is your smaller kind of industrial suites. They may be 1,000 square feet or 2,500 square feet, but there's additional space beside you, or maybe somewhere else in the park or in the building, wherever. Look at that and plan for your 5 and your 10-year growth, and try to understand to the best of your ability. I would still tell you to be kind of conservative on the space needs, going back to that whole budget issue. But if you can and money will allow, look at what your space needs are going to be in the next, in the coming years, and then find spaces that will allow you to grow into them. So, this is getting into navigating the entitlement process, right? This is all about the red tape, the bureaucracy of government. But, we're here to help. So, give us a call and let us know. But understand that these issues are the things that we're going to talk about are incumbent upon all businesses. And so don't feel like anyone's getting singled out here. But like we said before, look at your zoning. Understand what zoning means, what your space is zoned as, and what you're going to have to do is get what they call a letter of appropriateness. And you get that from the Garner Planning Department. And essentially it says that the zoning of your particular space and your particular use are in congruence, meaning that your use is acceptable under the zoning classification that the space is labeled as. And what you'll do is file your business registration fee or business registration forms, and a part of that business registration is the letter of appropriateness for zoning. And your business registration fee is around $20. It's applied to all businesses in town that are not feed or registered with the state of North Carolina. So things like doctors and lawyers, folks like that. If you get a license from the state of North Carolina to do business, you do not have to pay a business registration. But if you're a retailer or a manufacturer or something like that, then you will have to pay a business registration fee. Other things you need to think about is your various permits. So signage is a huge one. We get this all the time about why can't I get a sign, or how big of a sign can I get? Where can I put it? Things like that. There is a sign ordinance in Garner, essentially a sign law that dictates the size, the type, the color. Things like you can't have essentially billboard signs, the big flashing signs with all the graphics and things like that. But you can have appropriate signage for your building. If you're doing construction, so you move into a business and you need to do tenant upfits, bigger bathrooms or whatever it might be, you're going to have to pull a building permit. You're going to have construction drawings, and they're going to have to be sealed by an engineer. If you're going to serve alcohol with your business, you're going to need an ABC permit. The police chief will have to sign off on that. So understand what permits you're going to need to get in business, and then make sure you understand how you go about those and how long it will take to get those, because they are not same-day file and receive permits. It's going to take some time. If you're building, understand the inspections piece of it. So you do your constructions, your trades are going to have to be inspected. You're going to have to get a CO, certificate of occupancy, from the building department. If you're doing, let's say you have a restaurant, you're going to have to work with the environmental health department, which is the county department, and understanding what the environmental health code is that is applied to restaurants. If for whatever reason you're an emitter of particular gases or whatever, you may find yourself in need of an air quality permit, and those will come from the state of North Carolina. So really understand your business, what you're going to be doing, and then figure out what permits you're going to need. Other things you need to think about is, if you're moving into a bricks and mortar place, is the landscaping appropriate? Is there enough parking? Water and sewer available and sufficient? Is it ADA compliant? Are your fire exits and things like that, are they in compliance? All these things can have a huge expense associated with them, and all of them are covered by local ordinance and federal ordinance and state law. So your fire compliance is your building code. ADA is covered by the American with Disabilities Act, which is a federal law. Your water and sewer is covered by the city of Raleigh and the Town of Garner Engineering Department, and of course landscaping and parking is going to be handled by the Town of Garner Planning Department. Understand what you need. A lot of this is going to be dictated by what type of business you're in and where you're going to be located at. But like we said before, I repeat, do not sign a lease before speaking with the Town of Garner. Once you sign a lease, that's a legal document. We can't help you much. And so if your landscaping's off, or you don't have enough parking or something like that, you or the landlord are going to have to figure out how to correct those issues. And so please come and talk with the planning department, the economic development department before you sign a lease, so we can kind of help you navigate this process and get you into business where you can be by law. Because all these things are governed by law. There's not a whole heck of a lot of wiggle room in them. And so you just need to be aware that there may be some things that come up in your bricks and mortar location. Even if you own a home-based business, all right, you want to start a home-based business, you need to talk with the planning department and make sure that you're in compliance before you do so. You're still going to have to get a business registration fee, but the planning department is going to want to talk to you about whether or not you're going to have customers to your home. What's the frequency of it? Is there parking? Where is it at? Is your home-based business too big to be a home-based business? Those things matter. The last thing you want is for the Town of Garner to start getting a bunch of complaints from your neighbors that we then have to come out there and talk to you about, because that's not going to be good for anybody. So make sure to come talk with the town before you start your company, before you start your business, and where it's going to be located. And like I said, we can kind of help everybody navigate through the process. And I think I had, right here, this whole idea of we're from the government and we're here to help. No one, the old cliche about the government help, but seriously, we're here to help. We can get you through the entitlement process without a lot of headache, or as little as possible, and get you operating as soon as possible. But we need to have those conversations before you sign a lease, before you begin, and that way we can save each other a lot of time and headache. The last thing here, we're going to talk about a few business resources. And like I said before, a lot of these are free for entrepreneurs to use. Things like Business Link North Carolina can help you with the entitlement process. They can help you get connections with different, other resources within the state government. This is through the state of North Carolina, and it's really kind of just an all-in-all good resource for small businesses and those looking to start a company. Of course, the local Chamber of Commerce, Garner Chamber of Commerce, is a great partner of ours, and they can help as well. I would encourage everybody to at least consider getting involved with the Chamber because there's a lot of value they can bring. You can network and meet a lot of folks and get involved in the community, and that's really going to help out with your marketing efforts. And then, of course, there will be opportunities, and maybe you can find someone within the Chamber that's been successful in business to help mentor you and help you avoid even further pitfalls in starting and running your corporate, your business. NC LEAP, which is a legal resource there for entrepreneurs. You can ask them any host of legal questions that you might have. Even thing going back to, what legal entity, how should I structure my business? What legal entity should I establish it under? So make sure, if you have legal questions, NC LEAP is a great resource. Of course, the Town of Garner Economic Development Department, we're kind of the catch-all, the first stop on building a business type track. So, give us a call, let us know what you're looking at. We can kind of help pinpoint you in the direction that you need to go, save you time and money, and get the resources that you need as quickly as possible. The other thing is that the Wake Tech Small Business Center, the SBC, which is actually located not too far away from Garner. This is really a wonderful resource for any small business or anyone looking to start a small business, and anybody currently in business. They offer a lot of classes. They offer things on like how to write your business plan. They'll walk through your business plan with you and kind of point out maybe some areas that need adjustment or need further review. But they're just an excellent resource to help get you the information that you need to be successful. And their services are ongoing. So everything from, how to use social media to market your business to understanding market analysis and everything in between. The Wake Tech Small Business Center is a huge resource, so please use it. And then the last thing is the Small Business Technology Development Center, the SBTDC, which really, they focus on existing businesses, but giving them a call and kind of telling them what you're wanting to do may also help you to avoid some unnecessary hurdles, and having a connection with them could only help. It's not going to hurt you by any means. So making sure to get in contact with those folks. And if you, Google any of these things, you certainly can find contact information. We have brochures printed out here at Town Hall you can pick up with contact information, or you can just call the Economic Development Department. We'll be happy to get you in touch with those folks. We have partnerships with all of them. So those are some free resources or low-cost resources that you can take advantage of and kind of use as well, in the beginning, starting up your company, to the time that you're in business, and maybe even whenever you're ready to kind of close or potentially sell your company. You never know. And so this last slide here, we show at Garner 101 every year, but it's interesting. If you take a look at all these logos, we in America kind of have a very good understanding of what these companies are and what they do and the products they provide and things like that. But the reason why I showed it to you all today is because all these businesses that are shown here were started in garages and basements, right? They were all at one time small businesses. And this is the reason why small business is so important. Not only do the vast majority of corporate, businesses in North Carolina and the United States, for that matter, definitely in Garner, not only are they small businesses, but they also all hold the opportunity to being something bigger and greater than they already are today. And so what I would hope is anybody watching this and anybody that's not, if they think about the importance of small business, it's because most successful businesses, even the large ones today, all started small. And so we're happy and honored at the Town of Garner Economic Development Department to work with small corporations and small businesses. We look forward to it on a daily basis and helping folks kind of get their companies started. But I hope everyone that watches this video will take some time to really think about how these businesses here have grown and kind of their place in the market today, and take some comfort in knowing that they started small and that anything's possible with a lot of hard work. You can really grow a company from an idea on up into a billion-dollar corporation. So that kind of wraps up our how to get in business guide. Certainly this is not a an in-depth look at how to get in business. There's a lot of things that each business owner needs to contemplate for him or herself, do a lot of research, but I hope that the slides that we had today will kind of help get those gears turning and get folks to start thinking about, if they want to get in business, what are some of the initial steps that they need to take. Of course, the Garner Economic Development Department is always here, and we will be happy to help anyone think through their business plans, get them connected with the resources that will help them be successful, and make sure that, and help them find a space here in Garner that will meet their current and future needs. So if there's anything that anyone out there needs, please let me know. Once again, I'm Joe Stallings with the Town of Garner Economic Development Department. You can always reach me by phone or by email, and we're glad to help. If there's anybody here that's already in business, I just want to say sincerely thank you for doing business in Garner. Certainly our community wouldn't be what it is today without all those small business owners who call Garner home. So thank you very much, and go out there and start a business.